because
This
there
week
is no
on My
grandparent
Time to Talk.
say, well, go down to your grandparents' house or something, get a little respite.
It's true.
They're going on a women of prayer and not realising that they're making a mess of their children's lives.
Want to hear, they don't want to
Yeah.
listen, and then when they're on their deathbed, suddenly everybody should
Yeah.
be around calling, but you haven't invested in that child. Yes, you may have fed them, clothed them, but that's your job. Do you know, like, it's the emotional investment, it's the, you know, hugs, it's the kisses, it's the I love yous, like.
They kind of think like, oh well, you know, she's strong enough to take it, you know, like she's got this far by herself.
She's got money and
she's
you
got
know,
money
yeah.
and things like that. So, like, I'll just take another woman who is more dependent on me, you know.
Well, not all relationships work out, but you know, fathers need to be held accountable to say, like, just because they didn't work with that woman, your children are still your children.
Because she did.
So, welcome back, part 2. So this part we're going to discuss Jamelia'S interview with Paul Brunson. We Need to Talk, I
On
think the
YouTube,
podcast is
yeah,
called, on YouTube. It was a substantial interview. When I saw
Yeah.
2.5 hours, I was like, wow.
I know.
What in the world have they got to talk about for that long?
It didn't feel
It didn't
that
feel
way,
like
actually.
it, yeah,
It really
like,
didn't
in
feel
terms of
that
time,
way.
it didn't feel
Yeah.
like 2.5 hours.
hours.
But she, you know, I've got to say, I clicked on it, like it got me with the clickbait because it says the thumbnail was how me and my brothers were groomed.
Yeah.
So I did kind of get the idea because obviously I know they are from Birmingham. I grew up listening to Jamelia. We are, I think, of a similar age. Maybe she's a little bit older than me, but only a little bit.
Just only a little bit.
So, and obviously I just, you know, it was in the news a lot, you know, stories of her family, her brother and whatnot. So it was interesting to kind of, well, for me, that's why I was watching, because I just wanted to see from her own mouth, because she hasn't really spoken about her family
What
in
really
that way
happened.
and what happened. So you hear it from the news, but you know that they've got their own spin and stuff. So yeah, it was just interesting to hear from her point of view, like how it kind of manifested within her family, just her rise to fame, but also like after fame, like, you know, we rarely hear about what happens to people after they come out of the limelight, or you know, like the stardom has kind of gone type thing. Not that she's, you know, not a star anymore. I just mean in terms of like being in the headlines constantly. Obviously she was married to a footballer, so it was like there was a lot of Jamelia at a time.
Very negative. It was.
Yes, yeah, but like from the music standpoint, it was always positive. Like I always loved her music, I always loved her style, like how she presented herself. Like I did see her like as a positive role model, do you know what I mean? So whenever I would see like stories about her families, to me as a young person, it was like, oh, they're just trying to smear her career, basically, which, to be fair, probably is still quite true. But, you know, now we can hear from the horse's mouth that clearly there was things that were going wrong also, you know, behind the scenes for her and for her family as well, unfortunately. I don't know, I was just left with... like, it did end very hopeful and very thinking, not that I'm jumping to the end, but... like watching it, I was just like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
oh my
it's like,
gosh,
did that happen to you?
Yeah,
oh my
like,
gosh,
how much can one woman
that's
go
really
through?
nasty,
Do you know what I mean?
or something,
like,
you know.
And because I've always followed her on social media as well. You just wouldn't. I don't know, you wouldn't.
She never puts
suspect
stuff
it.
out
Yeah,
about
like
herself.
like it's always her and her daughter. So I did get the idea that, you know,
That's probably
relationships
why
were
she
going
never
well.
said anything.
Yeah, but I'm just like, in terms of her as a person, like when she talks about how like she literally had to crawl, you know, crawl and then, you know, walk again and then run type of thing, like metaphorically, but not metaphorically, because that's what
She
she's
had to
saying.
do,
I literally was on my knees at one point.
With only her daughters to actually help her.
And like to me that was like, oh wow. And like when you see these young girls, young women, and then like her little babies, like you just wouldn't think it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like by the grace of God, like. And obviously their mum, because for all whatever she was saying, she feels are her misgivings. She's still come through the other end of it, and she's being such a great role model for her daughters. Do you know what I mean?
Because she could have took it to, as she says, to the limits of, let me sleep with somebody and get somewhere. You know what I mean? Somewhere different, but. She sort of like took it as the basis of like, I've got daughters. I can't afford to be showing them that you sleep your way to the top, or you know, you go against your own integrity and your own morality to get anywhere, or to get some more money to live off. Because I mean, like, none of the stars can actually, or people that's been in the public's eye for so long, they can't just go and work at the local supermarket. Do you know what I mean? She's had to move her children to Dubai to actually get that feeling of relaxation,
and community,
you know,
she said.
to get a proper community.
Like she said, it's only since she's been to Dubai.
And she knows how women should be treated. It's like,
I
I would have thought that would have been the no-no, considering what, you know, they say about
but that's the media,
different
like
countries.
obviously being a Muslim country, but like I can honestly say that I do know better in that sense, and it does ring true. Do you know what I mean? Like that is what they're taught,
because that's what they are supposed to be like. You know what I mean?
Like,
in the Muslim religion, they are supposed to revere women, but it's not always the case. But she's found that has been the case in Dubai, and you know, you've got to commend anybody that would leave their country of origin,
well, obviously not comfort though for her,
to go to another country where she's still got young children, and you know, like, they're now going to have to be aware of another country's way of life.
It seems like it's doing them the world
good. That's what she said.
I mean, like, to make that kind of move, and again, when you're kind of not trusting your judgment, for her to kind of make that move, like, was very bold, like, is what I was thinking in hindsight, because, you know, we've all, like, as women, like, you have the mum guilt, and then you're like, oh, I've put them through this, and I've done that, and I've done that. Like, even if your children don't feel that way, like, you as a mother feel that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so could have done better.
Yeah, so for her to, like, have gone inside of herself, do you know what I mean, looked inside of herself and been like, yes, no, I haven't made all the right decisions, or life hasn't always treated me kindly, but it's not going to stop me from, you know, moving, from like, literally, physically and metaphorically, like, from doing what I need to do to make myself happy. And obviously she's kind of come from the standpoint that maybe it's not a relationship just simply because of how, you know, unfortunate her relationships have been for her and her family. I do hope that she finds somebody, because I feel like we are people that, you know, that humans have somebody need companion. They need companionship.
It's like, as she says, I'd prefer if they lived in another house. No, that is definitely from the relationships that you've had haven't gone that well. You know what I mean? I mean, the last one, she said, just walked out of her life, and you know, like, that is very crippling. You know what I mean? And to say
as well,
that she's never really felt loved or love, you know, she's never really had a love relationship, really goes for a lot of us women, you know, and especially, I don't want to say especially black women, but especially black women. Do you know what I mean? They've all got that sort of like, well, the dad wasn't in the house, and even if he was in the house, he wasn't very loving, you know what I mean? Like, he was providing for you or whatever, but, you know, you didn't find that love that you thought that, you know, even if it's a storybook love, you know, you all know that it can't be a story, it might not be a storybook love, but you expect to actually find some simulation of what it was like in the beginning, so that you can feel that in the end, you know what I mean, or in the middle, or after you've had their first child or something like that, which tends to look like, you know, going by the figures, that 18 months in, you know, after you've had your first child, you know, it's very, very tenuous, like as if the child's become a problem.
Well, yeah, because obviously their mother's attention will naturally gravitate more towards their child, where a man is, you know, generally quite selfish and they want your attention. Do you understand? So when you do have a child and then you have a man like what she was obviously dealing with, like, without being disrespectful, you know, it sounds like it's very misogynistic. It sounds like it's very abusive. So it's like you can't cope with a woman that's successful and now, you know, is having a child, and now your time and attention is not going to be thingy. They're getting empowered for that child. Like, all of that is, you know, red flags to guys like that. Do you know what I mean?
But the worst of it is when they know that you had a bad relationship initially with, say, like the first baby father.
I'm talking about her very first, because obviously she was only 16, and that's what she says. I've got to know now that I was only 16 and he was in his 20s. Like, so you know what was he wanting to do with a child anyway? Do you know what I mean? So it just goes to show, and this is my thing, like, when there is no man in the household, like her dad, you know, she was longing for that love of her dad. And I know it's like a story that, you know, time and time again
come across or seen or
but
been
it's
in.
because it's true. Do you know, like, if you haven't got that kind of stability at home, and no, not all relationships work out, but it, you know, fathers need to be held accountable to say, like, just because they didn't work with that woman, your children are still your children.
Because she did say that, remember? She says that she used to go around his house and he was the father
to his other
to somebody else, no, to his own children in another relationship. He was a proper father. He was there for his children.
He's incapable,
but he walked out on them.
Yeah,
you know
but
I mean?
Again, she said he was in and out of prison and stuff like that. So it's like, I do get it. There was, you know, the time was different. He was a Rasta in the you know, in the 90s in England. So it's like, yes, we know that the odds are already
picked on and everything.
But at the same time, it doesn't stop the trajectory of what's now happened to his child. And, you know, as thankfully she was able to make it financially, you know, and when she said she bought her mum a house and everything, and it still sounded like there was some kind of animosity even there with her and her mum, like, and this is again, like we was talking about before, like we have to kind of, as parents, especially like Caribbean parents, like my generation and the generations under, like, we need to kind of learn from these kind of mistakes. And I will, like, say it's a mistake, like this whole thing of, you need to just shut up and, you know, seen and not heard, and all of that mentality. Like, we've got to,
don't bring Jamaica over here, because it doesn't work the same way.
It doesn't work the same. Yes, you can have like moral, like a moral compass, but that whole thing of like talking down to your children, or like their opinion is not valid, or like it kind of smacked of that, or maybe even like a little bit of jealousy, like because that girl is the younger version of yourself. Do you know what I mean? That you're like, well, I had to leave everything and you got all of everything that I should have been able to get, like it, you know. And I'm not saying that was the case with her, because I don't know, but these were the things that he was kind of stirring up within.
It was tenuous.
It was like, that there was clearly some kind of
and it reinforces
and she said
Millie Black.
Yeah, but that's what
because that's what happened in Millie Black.
Yeah, and they don't want to hear, they don't want to listen, and then when they're on their deathbed, suddenly everybody should be around calling, but you haven't invested in that child. Yes, you may have fed them, clothed them, but that's your job. Do you know, like it's the emotional investment, it's the, you know, hugs, it's the kisses, it's the I love yous, like in a lot of black households, and I would say African as well, within that, you know, Caribbean and African experience, it's a little bit more lacking on those types of things, and those are very important to a child. Do you know what I mean? Like, to know that they're unconditionally loved, and yes, you will make mistakes, and yes, not, you know, life doesn't always work out, and yes, sometimes I'm peed off, but it's not with you. Like, we have to have them, like, I know I will say to my kids that, or I'll lose it on my kids, but then I'll have to come back and hold myself accountable to say, that's nothing to do with you. I apologise, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, and move forward, not making the same mistake over and over and over and over again, do you know what I mean? Like, we have to change it. So
we have to move the circle, stop the circle from carrying on.
Definitely.
And as he says, the interview really would actually make other women know that you wasn't alone when you was going through your shit. You know what I mean? Like, there was other women that was going through theirs as well. So it, as it says, like, nothing new under the sun. You know, like, don't stay in a relationship, like she said. You know, she got out of it. She got out of it, but she got scarred with that first relationship, scarred with the second or the third, you know, a second and third, you know, relationships.
Whether it's cheating or emotional abuse or, you know, physical abuse, like, you know, it's no excuse.
Because they kind of think, like, I have the feeling then they kind of think, like, oh, well, you know, she's strong enough to take it, you know, like, she's got this far by herself.
She's got money and
and things like that. So, like, I'll just take another woman who isn't so is more dependent on me, you know. And if you keep picking the same one, you know, as the saying says, you pick till you pick shit. Type of thing, you know what I mean? That is one of the sayings in Jamaica, you know what I mean? And it's true. And if you keep going into, and that's probably why she said that she would probably prefer if the next person didn't live in her house. And she named other people as well.
Yeah. That Sherry,
you know what I mean?
That said it. That's why.
Which I didn't know who that was.
The woman that played. She's been in so many things, but she played the mum in Whoopi in Sister Act.
Oh, did she?
Lauren Hill's mum in Sister Act. Shoulda, woulda, couldas.
Yeah,
that woman.
Yeah. Okay.
She's a singer as well.
Yeah. So, as I say, it's like, really and truly, it was a very good interview. The guy, Paul
Brunson,
actually asked tremendous amount of questions, and she had an answer for each one of them. And I think that, seriously, is going to be very helpful to anybody else who's in that position, and it's worth a watch, you know, even if you do it in 2 days or something like that, which I didn't have to, because it was kind of really, you know, gripping,
yeah,
type
like
of thing,
literally,
you know,
like, especially because she comes from Birmingham as well. Obviously it began with her, like, talking about, like, you know, Rastafarianism and her childhood and stuff like that. So when you think of, like, where she's come from, like, you can understand the journey then, do you know what I mean? Like, I could definitely relate in that sense.
I
couldn't relate to, obviously, the abusive relationships and stuff like that, because I haven't experienced it, but I can understand
I've seen other women
and that's what I'm saying, I
position.
could understand it, but I couldn't relate. Do you know what I mean?
Because in them days we had the thing called like Rema men, and you know, anybody watching this can actually know about the 70s in England and Birmingham especially. Like, Rema men were very violent, but as she says, her dad wasn't.
No,
you
she
know,
said
he was
she
very
was around a lot of loving men as well. She said,
and so that is a good thing, but as she says, he wasn't there for very long though, you know.
And if it's not consistent and it's not always, you know, your dad, like, it's still not your dad, do you know what I mean? Like, so you know, that person will still go back to their family or go back to wherever, and then you're still left with whatever feelings of neglect that you're left with, do you know what I mean? Like how she said she would save her homeworks and stuff, or think, oh, if I get all my spellings right, then I can, like that's the child's mind. Like maybe like a child will always blame themselves. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how obvious it is that it's nothing to do with them. A child will always blame themselves, and that's why I think it's just so important as parents that we recognise that and reinforce in their brains that this is not to do with you, and not in a this is what poor people business, like not in that way. I think a lot of literally like
that the mothers that was. I mean, we was talking about grandparents last week, and that still goes over to what is experienced with us as first generation and second generation children, because there is no grandparent to say, well, go down to your grandparents' house or something, get a little respite, that there's somebody else that you can talk to, like cousin, uncle,
and even for the parents,
somebody or grandparents or something. So it does get harder and harder. They haven't got a role model, and then they really haven't got a role model. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're going on a women of prayer and not realizing that they're making a mess of their children's lives. Do you know what I mean? So, as I said, she done a very good interview with him, and I know that she has done other interviews as well. I've seen, you know what I mean? But I would say that was the one that's worth
very
watching.
Comprehensive.
That's worth watching.
And you can tell she's not only done the work, but she's still acknowledging that there's still work to do. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's just the thing that we should all like take from it. Really, is like, this is the point of life. Like, it's for learning. It's for increasing in knowledge. Like, it doesn't just end because we stopped going to school or I've done higher education. Like, no, like life is for learning, and like, so like, let's always try and better ourselves, even if we feel like we're the dogs. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can always improve on ourselves. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's perfect. So it's good that she was able to just kind of still be very open. Like, when Paul was saying to her certain suggestions, she's like, oh yeah, I've done that, but I know what you mean. I need to read that one. Like, that's somebody that is looking to better themselves, and that's what I was like, hats off.
A lot of people say that. I mean, you hear people saying all the time, well, there's no book on parenting. Yes, there is. There is books on parenting. You know what I mean? Sorry?
Many.
Yeah, many books on parenting. Like how to bring up my teenager, how to there is books on parenting.
Breastfeeding.
Just because you're black, or just because you're white, or just because you're Asian, doesn't mean that it doesn't. It's not relevant to you.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like, you'll find that there's something in there that you can read to better your relationship. And if you can't do that, as we've said in the past, go to therapy. Do you know what I mean? Go to therapy, because there is.
She did say she's not like a therapy person, but it sounds like beyond therapy, she's doing stuff that is basically what a therapist would probably tell her to do. Do you know what I mean? Because therapy is only as good as how honest you're going to be in therapy as well. So you've got to kind of put that into context also. Like, you can have somebody in therapy for however long, but it's if they're not willing to actually learn something from it, then it's just
then it's
there
not
to
worth
just
it.
chat,
You just,
isn't it?
so you're just wasting your money.
So
that is what's it? But talking about singers.
Oh yeah. Do you wanna?
What's it this week? Oh, today, as we're speaking. Yesterday, as we're speaking. Coca T passed away. Coca T is a reggae artist that has been around all of my life, a majority. So rest in peace.
Rest easy.
Coca T, well missed. Can you imagine?
Definitely.
And only 65.
Yeah, that's it. It's no age, is it really? Definitely still a lot of life to live at 65, I would say. So yeah, rest easy. Obviously, condolences to his family.
His family as well.
And
so, my time to talk.
My time to talk. So yeah, join us again next week. We'll probably get back to the format of news and nonsense. But yeah, definitely needed to get them reviews in.
Subscribe, and comment.
Comment
if you have a
like and
mind.
subscribe.
Please comment about the grandparent thing. We'd like to know your
grandparent
opinions.
stories,
You know, on that.
Yeah. So obviously last week, if you didn't see at the end of last week's episode, we were just asking about people's grandparent stories. So like just in terms of, did you have grandparents? Did you grow up with grandparents? Did you not? And how you think that it's shaped your experience.
Right.
So yeah, until next time, be safe, like and subscribe.